right here on YouTube. Kindly click on the subscribe button so you get notified whenever any content is uploaded here or anytime there is a live. On Stick Media, we get to dissect issues across Nigeria's social, economic, and political landscape, issues that affect you and I, and we look for logical conclusions through which these issues can be well thought about or logically comprehended. It's very vital that we have objectivity when it comes to issues right now in Nigeria, where you have a lot of propaganda and false information that has saturated the social media space. Right here in Stick Media, you get verifiable information and updates on happenings in the polity. My name is Esther Machiko, so obviously you know how we do this most of the time. We get to look deeper into some of these issues that we see on the national dailies. Sometimes you people complain that the media doesn't just do much. We only reel out what the elites want us to reel out. Well, that's not the truth. Sometimes some of this information, we have investigative journalists, and some of those platforms like People's Gazette and FIJ give us exclusive details on certain situations, which obviously most of the time the government may not be comfortable with when any of this expose comes up. But right here in Stick Media, we're going to be looking into some critical and sensitive issues. First of all, insecurity is still the order of the day, despite the president deploying most of the police attached to certain VIPs, former vice presidents and former presidents, specifically former vice presidents. While they have retracted them and told them that they should be deployed to base, they really need more hands on deck. Also, the president has told the IGP to recruit more policemen, and so for the army to also recruit more persons into the military, because obviously when these bandits or terrorists terrorize communities, they come in their numbers, and so obviously the Nigerian army is very slim. They need more people to combat these guys. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be looking into what former President Olusegun Obasanjo recently said. He said that Nigerians are at liberty to seek help from outside the country when they feel they are not being secure by their nation. He also said that in these days of technology, nobody should commit crime and escape justice, adding that you can take them out. Obasanjo stated this while he was speaking at the Plateau Unity Christmas and Praise Festival ongoing at the 10 Commandments Prayer Altar, Duway just South Local Government Area, Plateau State. He said, and I quote, I believe that it is nonsensical. We're being killed. We Nigerians, no matter what religion you belong to, no matter where you come from, no matter your profession, we Nigerians are being killed, and our government seems to be incapable of protecting us. We are part of the world community. If our government cannot do it, we have the right to call on the international community to do for us what our government cannot do for us. If we're being killed, it is the responsibility of government to do something about it. And that in these days of technology, there should be nobody hiding anywhere after he has committed a crime that cannot be seen with a present day satellite. And what he said was actually absolutely the truth. Now, Peter Obi also made a remark like this, saying that it is a responsibility of the government to protect the lives of its people. Unfortunately, it became a tribal statement. You know that opposition has decided to always ridicule Peter Obi anytime he comes on social media to tweet or write or respond to anything of national interest. Peter Obi writes in response to issues that insult him. When he talks about his travel, he's insulted children, reprobates, persons who cannot even stand close to this man, actually take it upon themselves most of the time to humiliate him or embarrass him. So it's quite unfortunate that this is a situation that we have found ourselves, and it's also very unfortunate that things have continued in this manner. We're also going to be talking about the BIAFRA as you know it. BIAFRA as a term. Is there a difference between IPOB and BIAFRA? Is there a confusion? And very recently, because of what has happened to Nnamdi Kanu, there's been a lot of talk about Biafra as a country, supposedly that has not been realized, or an ideology that is in the hearts of all Southeasterners. We want to understand, is it all Igbos that recognize Biafra? Is it all Igbos that want to be part of IPOB or Biafra? We want to look at the difference, because the method through which Biafra has been fought for has not yielded anything. It has either been defeated. The modus operandi, maybe it's not working, or the struggle has not yielded anything other than the Igbos dying. So what way can these things change? what apparatus can be deployed to change the narrative. There is a narrative ongoing and it's dangerous for the unity of this country. There's a phobia being created. Any issue that happens in the Southeast, they ascribe it to IPOB. No investigation, nothing. So in other words, because Nigerian government has proscribed IPOB or the idea of IPOB, if anyone at all sees you and maybe you are carrying something or you're somewhere unfortunately we're not supposed to be, you could be shot at sight. That's what it means. And the same method is not applied to those in the north. The same method is not applied to our northern counterparts. And that's why a lot of persons feel that the whole situation with Nnamdi Kanu is unjustifiable. While some other persons who have the Igbo extraction believe it's justifiable, that the method with which Nnamdi Kanu went about the whole thing was wrong, that Igbos died. A lot of persons died. But now we want to know who killed the Igbos. Were certain criminal elements that infiltrated the group using IPOB to perpetrate mayhem. And Nnamdi Kanu has always maintained that he's innocent. He has always talked about the secession of Biafra. 8 years ago, Nnamdi Kanu was in a television, or rather, yes, and then it's an exclusive interview with Kadaria Ahmed. Kadaria Ahmed is a media mogul. She's the owner of Radio Now. She's El Rufai's sister-in-law. And Nnamdi Kanu spoke quite in depth in that interview with Kadaria Ahmed. This was 8 years ago. In that interview, Nnamdi Kanu said he will fight for Biafra till his death. He said it is either Biafra is achieved, and if it is not achieved, it is something he will continue to struggle for. And she asked him, what if you're not able to achieve Biafra? What then happens? Would you go to war? He maintained that no, he wouldn't go to war. But the thing now is that there was war declared on the Southeast immediately after Nnamdi Kanu left after 2015. Initially, he left and escaped bail because the Nigerian army came and invaded his home. So since then, there was a radicalism. The message was radical and he did not care. But what happened was a lot of persons died. Now, who were the people that killed the Southeasterners? Young persons who were in their homes trying to rest, trying to recalibrate, trying to hustle, trying to go to their farms. The victims and family members who were part of the mayhem that occurred in the Southeast, some of them have decided to dissociate themselves, to distance themselves from anything called IPOB or Biafra. To them, they feel that that dissonance is important because they don't ascribe or associate with IPOB as a group that represents the interests of Indigbos. And so the Southeast is kind of a little bit fragmented. There are some who believe that Nnamdi Kanu's punishment in Sokoto prison is due. There are some who even advocating for the lives. And I'm talking about Igbos themselves. I'm not even referring to non-Igbos. It's even funny because it's even the non-Igbos that have been advocating for Nnamdi Kanu. Well, the Igbos themselves have been saying that he did not do them any good. He exposed them, and now they're being ridiculed at every front. People tell them, pack your load, get out of our state. We don't want to have anything with you. Well, we're going to be speaking with Barrister Eze Eluche. He is a social affairs commentator, and he's also been part of the struggle. We want to hear precisely what he thinks about this. What is the concept of Biafra? Is this something that will ever be achievable? Is this something that will ever be realized? The method for achieving Biafra, is it possible for that method to be changed? And in what way would the Southeasterners go about recognizing Biafra or being part of the whole Biafran enterprise? It is also very imperative that we understand things from a historical perspective. A lot of Nigerians have asked themselves questions as to in what way and at what point will things change, and in what method will people understand that it has gotten to a point where identification is necessary. Barrister Friday Nzako, Barrister Eze Eluche, sorry, good morning, how are you?
Yeah, good morning. I'm fine. Thank you.
Yes. So, Barrister, I was talking about the concept of Biafra. Ever since the conviction of Nnamdi Kanu, the polity has been divided. There's confusion about the difference, if there is a difference between IPOB and Biafra. There are some persons who no longer want to associate themselves with Biafra. There's some persons, because of the carnage, mayhem, violent activities that was carried out in the Southeast, and ever since the Civil War, they believe that the method for secession, the method for the identification of... Paris, are you busy? There's a lot of noise at the background, sir. Hello? Barrister Eze Eluche. Okay, so it seems Barrister Eze Eluche is very busy because there's a lot of noise at the background, which is kind of interfering. I'm going to reconnect with him. The basic question, Barrister, you seem to be quite busy. The noise at the background was too much.
Go ahead. Go ahead. It's okay now.
All right. So what I want to understand is that ever since what happened to Nnamdi Kanu happened, right, Barrister, there's been a lot of confusion as to the identification of those who still believe in the Biafran journey or the Biafran movement. Some Igbos actually approved the life sentence of Nnamdi Kanu, especially those who were victims of the attack in the southeast. Some advocating for his release. Even non-Igbos are the ones supposedly advocating for the release of Nnamdi Kanu more than the Igbos. They feel that ever since the ideology of Biafra, it is the Igbos that has always bear the brunt, from the civil war to the whole situation with Nnamdi Kanu and the carnage. And now there's a supposed Igbophobia across. So the problem now is it the fault of the federal government? Is it the fault of the southeastern politicians? Or is it the strategy or the method that has been deployed in achieving this that has put Nnamdi Kanu in the unfortunate state that he is now? And considering the lives of persons that have been lost in this journey for the realization of Biafra. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now, what people must realize is this. Fundamentally, Biafra is not an Igbo word.
Okay.
It's not an Igbo word. Biafra was a name used by the peoples of the former southeastern Nigeria in their quest for independence from Nigeria between 1967 and 1970. So the whole clamor about Biafra is misconceived. The reality is this: what the Igbos are advocating for, and what is a fundamental internationally recognized right, is the right to self-determination and the right to self-actualization. It does not need to be under a particular name or particular geographical name. The Igbos are saying that they are marginalized and they have a right to self-actualization and self-determination. Now, when you fixate that right or that quest with the name that has historic, like when Mr. Nnamdi talk about Biafra, the issue was clear. Is Biafra the entirety of what was Biafra during the 1967 to 1970 era, which includes the entirety of Cross River, Waibom, and all those states, and people from those areas? So it was misconceived in the sense that what should have been the focus of the agitation was Igbo self-actualization and self-determination. And the Igbos, by their sheer numerical strength, they are qualified to be Igbos of the southeastern part of Nigeria should become a country. They will be one top 10 in terms of population in Africa. So it's not as if anybody is detests what Mazi Kanu did, but the reality is this: there was there injustice in the persecution of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? Yes. Is it right to advocate for his release from the obnoxious judgment of the court of Justice Omotosho? Yes, because that was not a prosecution, that was a persecution. So I mean, you have to distinguish those two things. People like me, for instance, I have vehemently said that the entirety of the persecution of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was simply because he was Igbo. That is why killers, terrorists across the country, in the southwest, in the northeast, in the northwest, in the north central, they have been feted by government. The government discusses with them, government gives them, even pays them. Why is it that Mr. Nnamdi Kanu is incarceration? Is it because it's Igbo? And it's not, and that's the question that answers itself. The question is it because it's Igbo? And the answer is yes. Nnamdi Kanu is where
the network is very poor. You seem to be skipping a lot.
I was very clear on that, yes.
Hello? You said what, sir?
Is it? Okay, but I'm hearing you very well.
Yeah, but I'm
hearing you very clear.
All right, yes. Continue, sir. Continue. I think it's better now. Continue.
Saying in a nutshell is what I'm saying in a nutshell is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's incarceration, persecution is unjust, and it is simply because he is Igbo. the entire judgment should be thrown into the dustbin because it does not meet the basics of justice. And what basic is it? Section 36, subsection 6b says that any accused person must be given enough time and opportunity to defend himself. By the court's pronouncement that he gave Nnamdi Kanu 6 days to defend allegations which were piled up over a period of more than 2 years, that fundamentally negates the principle of justice.
All right, Barrister Eze, Barrister Eze, Nnamdi Kanu's case, I remember during his trial while he was in DSS, before he was sentenced to life imprisonment and taken to Sokoto, when it was time for him to open his defense, that was when the whole health issue came on. Nnamdi Kanu said he had health issues and needed to be taken to the National Hospital, which Justice James Omotosho felt was a delay tactic and that they could no longer delay this. Also, there was a whole protest in Abuja at the time. A couple of persons felt that, okay, if a lot of persons feel this trial should be accelerated, let it be. Now, Nnamdi Kanu was the one who said he needed to go to the hospital when it was time for him to open his defense. And instead of that defense to be opened, he decided that he needed to go to the hospital. Then Justice James Omotosho set up a team, national doctors from top doctors to go do some checkup on him, which Justice James Omotosho said, based on the conclusion of those doctors, that Nnamdi Kanu was good and healthy to go on with the trial. So do you think that that was basically one of the reasons why they gave him that ultimatum of 6 days to open his defense? Secondly, he mentioned certain persons that were going to be part of his defense. When it was time to call them off during the weekend, by Monday, when Nnamdi Kanu was meant to present these individuals, he declined to present them. Meanwhile, the court had assented to those persons presenting themselves if they were served the court order. So what happened in that regard? And why did he discontinue? Okay. Why did he discontinue with his legal team?
Yes. You listen to the judge's pronouncements. That is what is essential.
Hello? You said what, sir? Can you repeat yourself?
This pronounced case, are you within the Panu's trial, was that the court has for the entirety of his defense. Now, the whole purpose of that is that it will even destabilize the defense, because the prosecution did not get only 6 days. The prosecution had more than 2 years to prosecute. So giving him 6 days is an aberration. It's an act of injustice that nullifies whatsoever happened. Because it was after the 6 days pronouncement that the issue of Nnamdi Kanu's lawyers withdrawing happened, or that he sacked his lawyers, that he opted to defend himself, that he now said, okay, and all those other things that happened. The issue is, what did the court do to precipitate all these issues? And that act of the
Barrister Eze, hello. Barrister Eze, network is terribly poor. You're really, really cracking, and I really need to hear what you're saying about this. Can you repeat what you just said? Hello?
What I'm saying is that the court days for his defense, that mere fact of giving him 6 days for the defense rubbishes the entirety of the case. Because the prosecution had more than 2 years to prosecute. And based on that pronouncement by the courts, it can be validly said that the entirety of the process is unjust. Because it defies a constitutional provision that says that every defendant must be given all the facilities for his defense. In this, so whether Nnamdi Kanu with his lawyers withdrew or they continue to defend and he couldn't defend again is immaterial, because the judge by his own pronouncement.
Okay, all right. I'll try to reconnect with Barrister as Uche. The network is terrible, like extremely bad, and I really need to hear what he's saying. Because in this context, these are persons who have been following this case judiciously. It's also very imperative to contextualize the issue of Nnamdi Kanu and the current wave of insecurity that we are experiencing in Nigeria right about now. It's also very worrisome as to the lackadaisical or nonchalant attitude of the government in handling this. And like I said, there are a lot of talks from people, Nigerians across several geopolitical zones, as to the conviction by Justice James Omotosho. Now, there are some persons from the Southwest who believe that this whole thing was politics, that the Fulani, the Fulanis or the Hausa Janjaweeds, according to Nnamdi Kanu, they started off by apprehending this guy with late Muhammadu Buhari when he extraordinarily renditioned Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya, brought him to Kenya, started off the case, but they refused to convict him. They didn't want the case to be on their head. So now the whole narrative is that the Hausas or the Hausa Fulanis use the Yoruba to execute something to create more hate between the Yorubas and the Igbos. And a couple of people feel that that is too primitive line. That's a very primitive line of thought. They think it's not possible for anybody to reason the situation like this. What when you consider the term terrorism and the impact most of the expletives and most of the statements Nnamdi Kanu made, the impact it had is so bad because very recently the convoy, the former governor of Anambra State, Chris Ngige, was attacked. And immediately they ascribed the attack to IPOB. No investigations, nobody knows, they didn't apprehend anybody, they didn't catch anyone. The next thing they just called it's an IPOP thing. And that's why a lot of Nigerians are worried that this kind of narrative is terrible, very dangerous for the unity of Nigeria, because you cannot say peradventure that you want to fight crime, but before crime takes its shape, before crime is investigated, you have already concluded that this is what the whole thing is all about. So the big question now is, how can you ascribe the attitude of certain persons to one person, or ascribe the attitude of a particular individual to a group of people? That's the question, without making any form of verification, without trying to identify what could be the reasons, without trying to understand what could have promulgated such. You didn't try to make any form of investigation. You didn't go ahead to possibly understand what could have caused what happened. You immediately ascribed what happened to a group of people who literally do not even know, or they're not even part, or don't even understand what is happening. So the big question at this point in time is, if anyone wants to realize a certain cause, if anyone wants to go through a certain measure, how does one go with it? How does one try to be part of it? How does one try to understand the theatrics at play? Because at this point in time, you would think that certain persons have worked hard enough to create an impression or create a narrative that exonerates certain narratives or certain expletives or certain terminologies on a particular group of people. And I'm referring to either the Biafran, Southeast, or IPOB as a group. And so that's why we want to understand the context. So a couple of people don't believe in the narrative or don't believe in the whole I am IPOB or I am a Biafran, because the method with which this has been canvassed for, the resultant issue, or will I say the resultant factor, the resultant effect has always been to the detriment of the people who have been fighting to either extricate themselves from a contraption called Nigeria or to emancipate themselves from Nigeria. And that's why there have been several interpretations to the whole IPOP situation. There have been different narratives to the whole conviction of Nnamdi Kanu. There have been different narratives as to the method and strategy through which the concept of Biafra or IPOP is being advocated for. So the big question for some certain persons is, how do we go about getting it right? That's one. Two, at this point, is this the right time for Biafra or IPOP to say they want to actualize their individualism? Or is it possible for them to go on to their drawing board and re-strategize? A lot of young persons who are not part of the struggle right from the days of Masob or even post the Civil War, a couple of children whose parents fought the Civil War, are quite old. Some of them are 60 years now, 60 something. So they're not young enough to go through any form of violent or rigorous acts to actualize Biafra. They can only tell the story. They can only even tell the story that was told to them as to what happened. So in what way and in what aspect is this whole concept gotten wrong? Because right now, with the whole Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, the whole Igbo conversation has been the talk of the day, all because Peter Obi decided to campaign. Peter Obi decided that, okay, if we have stayed away from politics, if we had emancipated ourselves from politics for so long, how about we enter the mainstream aspect of politics and see how we can get things done differently? That way, whatever perception or narrative that has been given to the Igbos may change, or something different may occur, and another line of thought or another creation of the concept of Igbos will be put into the subconscious of the rest of Nigerians who don't even really understand what happened and why Igbos have always said they wanted to secede, or why they feel that they have no longer been accepted to be part of Nigeria, why they have been isolated, disenfranchised, and not considered when it comes to federal allocation, when it comes to economic development, when it comes to infrastructural implementation in the Southeast, and a wholesome industrialization of the region, why there is a pertinent fear as to how this group that have decided on their own that it is imperative that they economically be one and be strong and be identified as a force to be reckoned with, where at every point in time the center, which is the Nigerian government, has always divided or created a narrative that disinterests or gives a disadvantage of anyone who wants to actualize that dream. So what is the strategy that has not been applied, or what is the strategy that can be applied to achieve this? Because like I said earlier in this conversation, a couple of people don't know what happened. A couple of people don't understand. A couple of people have been brainwashed. A couple of people has a twisted ideology or a twisted narrative of what happened and the history of IPOB and Biafra. A lot of people don't even know what exactly the concept of Biafra is and why it is something that has always been fought for. A couple of people don't understand it. And so that's why we want to understand here what exactly is needed and in what way can something be done to possibly either achieve this or reintegrate the Southeast to be part of Nigeria? And in what way has the Nigerian government done wrong in not helping to actualize this? Rather, they have polarized the Southeast further, created an economic downturn, disengaged a lot of investment opportunities. And then the Southeast politicians, who have never ever been more futuristic in thought, in attitude, they have also contributed to the, the misconception about the Southeast, and for so long, the lack of development in the Southeast. It's just now that a few governors are realizing that regardless of them being part of the mainstream politics, they need to develop their region. I'm speaking of Abia State and possibly Enugu State. Imo State is nothing to write home about. Ebonyi State is something that you cannot write home about. The person who is there, the governor who is there, is literally just a stooge, literally doing nothing. And so things are almost still the same. So how do we change it? Because you have a lot of Igbos in diaspora who have woken up, and the reason why they woke up is the disparity they're experiencing now with Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government. A lot of them are not happy with how Bola Ahmed Tinubu's government has treated them, and they are not comfortable with the whole Igbo-phobic mantra, the whole Igbo-phobic disposition. You may say the president is not aware of the mishappenings, right, in the country right now, and the way they're isolating certain ethnic groups. But the thing is that those working for the government are supporting it. You have Bayo Naniga coming to put up ethnic slurs just because of Peter Obi, make certain derogatory statements against an ethnic group, make certain statements against a particular group of persons who just want to be part of the country and see how they can move forward. You never harmonized, you never called for unity. And then you also disparage them for saying they want to emancipate themselves, for saying that they want to actualize their own country. You make them feel stupid. You make them feel like they're terrorists for advocating for it. So what is the strategy that needs to be employed to achieve that? That's basically what I want Barrister Eze Eluche to give us details on. Unfortunately, the network is not cooperating, and so we need to try as much as possible to understand how to go about this. Also, another thing to consider, for example, now is in the presence of injustice, for example, what is going on in the politics. Barrister Eze, in the aspect of injustice, Barrister Eze, in the aspect of injustice, how will the Southeast, how do they position themselves, and what strategy do they need to employ now if things continue the way they are continuing? How do they stop this terrible name given to them? Any issue that happens in the Southeast, they ascribe it to IPOB. Anything that happens without proper investigation is ascribed to IPOB. And when you want to give a dog when you want to hang a dog, you give it a bad name, and it creates a phobia, like what is going on with the Fulanis. Right now, anybody who seems to look like a Hausa Fulani in any place, they chase them away, they ask them to leave because of what is currently happening. It may get to that point with IPOB or Indibo or Biafrans if the narrative doesn't change. I mean, if a different strategy is not employed. So how do we handle that?
No, thank you very much. There is no need to handle such because the Igbos are known for who they are. When criminals give you a bad name, you don't give a damn about criminals. The reality is that Nigerians, those who interact with Igbos across the world, know the stuff the Igbos are made of. So we should not be bothered when these charlatans in government or politicians give Igbos any kind of name they deserve. The Igbos know themselves. We know that. We know the salt we have, the stuff we are made of. So it does not bother any Igbo whatsoever when characters who are criminal in who they say we are. That is a
Okay, Barrister, can you hear me? Barrister Eze? Wow, I don't really know why the network has been terrible. It's been terrible. I don't know what's going on. I would have really loved to hear what he has to say, but we'd have to continue the conversation. Like he's saying that no one should be concerned about the kind of tag or name they want to give those who are agitating to be recognized. They feel that it is only a myopic concept only in Nigeria for those who are not exposed, for those who are not well traveled to understand what the idea or the ideology of the actualization of the indigenous people of Biafra. But again, we're going to continue to have this conversation because history is pertinent here. We need to bring in the aspect or to the point that it did, and the error that was made by the Nigerian government, especially post the Civil War. The Civil War was not supposed to like place. After the Civil War, the Nigerian government had reintegrated and rehabilitated and creating a form of unism with the Southeasterners. That disparity has always been obvious, and it always feels like the system was structured in such a way that anyone from the Southeastern extraction would not have any opportunity whatsoever to be part of the mainstream system. The only highest position you can get to is maybe vice president or senate president. But to make a Southeasterner a president is something that I don't know. Somehow the system has structured that it wouldn't take place. When it comes to, it is a turn at the South. The South you're referring to is not necessarily southeast or south-south. It's basically southwest. Anytime you hear is a turn of the South, it's basically the southwest. So it's almost like when it comes to presidency or presidential rotation in this country is between the north and the southwest. The southwest is anyone from Yoruba land. South-south, what's his name? Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan broke that jinx, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it was also what happened. It was a Sherlock. What's his name? When Yarodua passed on, Jonathan was the deputy. If there was another means in the constitution to erase that or stop that from happening, I'm very certain that they would have done that, whereby Jonathan wouldn't have emerged as the sitting president. And when he decided to re-campaign in 2015, we all saw what transpired after that. Meanwhile, going to the political scene right about now, we already know what transpired. Former President ATIKU Abubakar sent a strong message to President Tinubu stating that the African Democratic Congress is set to make significant political gains ahead of the 2027 general elections. ATIKU, who formally what I'm talking about is officially joining the ADC on Thursday in Yola, Adamawa State, shared the development in a post on his X handle on Friday. He posted photographs of himself receiving his membership card and a customary customized Waziri 01 jersey, highlighting the symbolic nature of the brief ceremony. And he drew a large gathering of supporters, party leaders, and community stakeholders. He reaffirmed the party's growing momentum. ATIKU noted that the ADC's nationwide mobilization efforts are in full swing, and that this time around, no holds barred. So, in other words, he's warning Tinubu, guy, you better wake up from your slumber. We are coming for you. A couple of people feel the insecurity right now in the country is artificial. Really? Is it really artificial? People have died, people have been slaughtered, people have really gone to the grave beyond. So you're saying it's artificial? Well, let's say the talk is that the scripts of the APC in 2015 is what is being replayed. Unfortunately, it is not the politicians that are going through this doldrum. It is you and I, innocent Nigerians. You can't go about your businesses. You can't sleep safely in your home. You can't do anything. So it's the grace of God if you see the following day. To travel by road now, you literally need to embark on a serious prayer. And for those who are very good in diabolism, you fortify yourself. You fortify yourself in that vehicle so these persons will not see you. They're kidnapping. The kidnapping is on the rise, taking people to the bush, demanding for ransom. And because it is being conscripted or ascribed as Fulani terrorists, some certain individuals are using the camouflage or the faces of those persons to commit this mayhem. A lot of terrible human beings have been using the cover of Fulani terrorists to carry on the nefarious activities. And that is because we have allowed this particular attitude and activities of these individuals generate to the point where it is now a very huge deal. So to nip it in the bud is very difficult. Obviously, the politicians are hands-on in what is going on. This whole thing is planned. It's something that they have continued to use over time to dictate to the government of the day, to have an upper hand, to generate more money for themselves. And you'll be so shocked that during elections, the persons who have been supporting these terrorists are the ones who will be in government. So Atiku is saying that Tinubu had better wake up from his slumber because the ADC intends to become a major opposition. Now, that's not the only thing we should consider here as well. Another interesting factor was that yesterday, Dati Baba Ahmed, the Labour Party vice presidential candidate in 2023, reaffirmed that Peter Obi is still with the Labour Party and that nothing has changed. He said so far as he knows, Peter Obi is still part of Labour Party. The El-Rufai, while he also officially joined the ADC, said that he expects Peter Obi to join the ADC officially as well. The party gave them some sort of excuse because of the elections that were taking place in the previous parties that belonged. A couple of persons berated El-Rufai that why would you call on Peter Obi to join ADC? You don't call him out. You have joined, you have joined. If he wants to join, fine. If he doesn't want to join, fine. A couple of people feel that Peter Obi should be part of the ADC, that right now anything to oust Tinubu from government, in other words, either Peter Obi will be the deputy to Atiku Abubakar. That way, their votes combined will be very strong. So people still believe that Peter Obi should not be part of that circle of persons. For example, El-Rufai was part of the strong and staunch persons that brought this government to power. El-Rufai was one of the persons that supported President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to come into power. So why would you want to work with the person that brought this government in power? Why would you want to work with the person that a couple of persons have alleged were part of the nefarious dastardly act of insecurity that was perpetrated in southern Kaduna? Why would you want to be part of someone who what he says is not what he does? There's no honesty there. They're also saying, why do you also want to be part of a group of persons whose only thirst is for power, not for the interests of Nigerians? Peter Obi has always maintained that he is not desperate to become the president. And a couple of persons said, well, yes, agreed, but you need to make your stand known. Where do you belong? If you belong to the Labour Party, then let's know that you are officially standing with the Labour Party and not saying that you're in the Labour Party, but you're in partnership with the ADC for good governance. Right now, the ADC wants to prepare its groundwork to achieve what you would call structural, grassroots structure for 2027. So will Peter Obi join the ADC officially, or will he be running with the Labour Party? So far, with what Dati Baba Ahmed said yesterday, is very pertinent and obvious that Peter Obi may actually be joining, may actually actually be with the Labour Party? We don't know yet, but Dati Ahmed confirmed it by saying that Peter Obi is still in the Labour Party and that nothing has changed. So what is the strategy that will be deployed by the ADC now, and how well do they intend to continue to negotiate to have an upper hand as an opposition? There are also talks that there are factions in the ADC that are still not comfortable with a lot of things that happened. Those factions, there are fears that they could actually neutralize the effect of the ADC as a major opposition. But for the Bola Ahmed Tinubu government and the method they have deployed ever since they came into power, could it be that Nigerians were not just fair to them? Also, the method of polarizing the polity, bringing up ethnic sentiments across board is very terrible. They have really divided the polity and created hatred. Well, some people will say it's just on social media. In reality, that's not the case, but it starts on social media and then it gets to the streets. So how do we curb this change? That's a big question for the APC to respond to. And that's another thing for the ADC to attend to. As for Peter Obi, well, who knows? He may even not be part of those that will join the movement. He may not even contest the presidential elections in 2027. You may be so surprised. The guy is just minding his business. Or can you send anybody? You send anybody, Papa. Anything you want to say is your concern. He will continue to remain with what he believes. Meanwhile, while all of this is going on in the opposition, the former Attorney General of the Federation, Malami, you know him, he was the one that was in charge of the former Attorney General of the Federation with late Muhammadu Buhari. He was one that facilitated the extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu. Now, remember, he's also part of the ADC. That's why a lot of persons are not comfortable with Peter Obi joining the ADC because of this element. So he was invited by the EFCC for question very recently. And apparently, they said it was because of sundry issues, after which he was granted bail. So the top sources revealed on Saturday, which is today, that Malami was in the EFCC custody on Friday and was almost going to spend the night because of the bail conditions given to him. So is the fact that he got a bail, and he got bail by providing two top-level civil servants after interrogation on Friday. Now, the former AGF announced that he had been invited by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission to provide clarification on certain issues. Well, according to him, Malami emphasized his long-standing commitment to honesty, integrity, and accountability in public service, describing these principles as central to his career. Malami also has faced allegations of corruption and abuse of office, but he has not been formally charged. Maybe this is a process for him being formally charged. So in a series of reports exposed wide-ranging legitimacy issues, including non-execution of agreed contracts and backdoor deals, which raised against the indebtedness from various quarters. Okay, so again, there are a lot of documents ascribed to this man as to his dealings while he was Attorney General of the Federation. Meanwhile, he was very astute in making sure that Nnamdi Kanu was jailed and, taken to court. He is the one that was asked for a political resolution before Buhari left office, and somehow that political resolution could not be made, or could not be met. So how would Peter Obi want to join the ADC with persons like this? How? So I think he's in a crossroad. It's all about morality and playing politics. Do you go into bed with the wolves and the snakes? So you get into power. And then what is the objective? That when you get into power, you will change anything. There is also the fear, all right, that if you decide at some point in time to get in there, that the actualization of Biafra, that Peter Obi would realize it, that he would divide the country, he would give Biafrans what they want. How do you know that? For me, I think Peter Obi is trying to do something different. APGA as a political party, that is All Progressives Grand Alliance, has always been a regional political party. And Peter Obi believes that for the Southeast to be integrated, to be seen as a strong force, you have to join mainstream politics. You can no longer continue the regional angle of doing things. You have to join the mainstream politics. And that's what he's doing. But a couple of people don't realize that. As to how 2027 will be is what we don't know. If Peter Obi going to be part of 2027, we don't know yet. He's still keeping his cards close to his chest. I have reached out to a couple of his close associates. They don't even know what his mind is all about. He's keeping his trump card in his chest, and I think I understand him doing that. Evans, well, Okay, Evans, I've been on leave. I'll be resuming on Monday. Thank you for reaching out. Yes, I'll be resuming on Monday, Evans. I have to rest now. I know we'll kill myself. So, by the grace of God, I'll be resuming on Monday. I hope you're fine. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement. I sincerely do appreciate you. My name is Esther Machiko. It's been quite a beautiful Saturday morning. Based on the conversation that we have had here, I would like to know what you think on the topics of interest. Unfortunately, the phone call with Barrister Eze Eluche wasn't very smooth, but I needed him to give us concepts so we have a logical understanding. We're still going to have that conversation. We need to have the conversation because at this point in time, identification is pertinent. You need to know where you belong. You need to know where you stand. You need to know what you represent. So, are you a Biafran if you're from the Southeast? Is it all Southeasterners that believe that they belong to Biafra? If you are from the Southeast and you don't identify as a Biafran, does that make you an outcast? Does that mean that you are a betrayer? Does that mean that you're one of those who are part of, one of those who have divided the polity of the Southeast? Are you not free to be part of any ideology? Is anything wrong if you say, no, I want to be part of Nigeria, I'm a Nigerian first before I consider myself as a Biafran or whatever it is? Is there anything wrong in that? And then, like I asked earlier, what is the right strategy to apply in achieving this? The method that has been applied for so long hasn't worked. So, how do you reorganize and re-strategize, get into the mainstream politics and advocate for the realization of Biafra, or possibly how you can call the government to order to do the necessary deed in integrating the Southeast and then getting the right leaders? The Southeast has always had the worst of leaders, always had the worst of leaders who have never ever advocated for the development of the Southeast. These are endemic problems. Some people will say that the issue with Igbos are themselves, but they will rather throw stones at others or point fingers at others. However, how do you change and how do you come together this time around to make the Southeast a dream? How do you shut down criminal elements who want to destabilize the peace and stability of the Southeast? How do you immediately call out crime and injustice regardless of who is involved? If it is your tribesman that is involved, what disciplinary measure do you intend to apply without defending it to ensure that anybody who thinks that the lives and properties of the Southeast will be used as the whims and caprices of certain persons just to destabilize the growth happening in the Southeast, nobody will stand for it? And what is the input of Nigerians in diaspora ensuring that that peace and stability is returned? Right now, we're in December, a lot of persons want to return home, and we already know the capital the capital it's going to provide us, the internally generated revenue it will provide for a lot of persons from diaspora returning home. But there is a fear about their safety. There's a fear about their stability and serenity. So what are you doing to ensure that nothing happens now that Nnamdi Kanu has been sentenced? Because any crime carried out, they will blame IPOB. They wouldn't investigate. They'll just put a trump card. It is IPOB. So how do we correct all of these narratives? I would like to know your comment. Please, please, please kindly let me know what you think. Bye for now.